have a huge book haul to show you guys. I have been on a book buying rampage in the last week. I bought 7 books. I feel like I have a lot of different genres mixed in here. I have some kind of horror, romance, some fantasy, a graphic novel, a memoir. There's some good variety in here. So hopefully you'll find something that interests you as well. I'm gonna give a brief explanation of each because they all sound super interesting. The first book that I picked up is Tender as the Flesh. This is a book about a dystopian society where animal meat has been contaminated, and so society turns to eating human meat, cannibalism. It's also in the perspective of a man who works at a human meat processing plant. This just sounds absolutely insane, and unlike anything I've ever read before, explores morals, ethics, and is definitely a commentary on the meat industry. It flips the roles and turns it onto humans to humanize animals and confront what the meat industry is doing. I've heard it's pretty disturbing and vulgar, so I'm interested. I feel like I'm slowly exploring books that are very like deviant and disturbing because it's just interesting to read about a different perspective, and something about just like messed up stories and characters intrigues me. Speaking of messed up characters, my next book that I picked up is Boy Parts by Eliza Clark. I'm sure you've heard about this one. This one's very popular at the moment. It's about a woman who scouts men off the street to photograph, and she takes very explicit photos, explores her dark, obsessive desires, and it's a psychological horror, which I've never read before, and it's often compared to American Psycho, but from the perspective of a woman, which just sounds crazy, and I'm very intrigued on what that will entail. Also, my favorite YouTuber, Eleanor Neal, read this and really liked it. She's a true crime YouTuber, and she said this was right up her alley. I also enjoy watching true crime, so I feel like this will be an intro into that, but for books. I'm also interested to see whether I will like this like dark horror kind of genre. I've also heard this is gory, and I've seen that people either love this book or hate it, and there's really no in between. Like on Goodreads, it has a 3.8, I think, which is decent, but people are either like 2 stars or 5 stars. So I'm interested to see where I'll fall in that. But yeah, if you've read this, definitely let me know what you think because I'm interested to see people's take on it. This next one is called Almond. I love this cover, by the way, and I have highlighters that perfectly match all of these shades. I took a picture and posted it on my Pinterest because I was like, how did I happen to have markers that fit this perfectly? This book is about a young boy who has a brain condition that affects the way he feels or makes him lack the ability to feel certain emotions like fear and anger. It navigates his life with this condition and also his relationship to his mother and grandmother as they guide him through this world where he's different. Some sort of devastating tragedy happens where he loses his grandmother and mother, I believe. He's thrust into this world alone that he does not know how to live in. This book explores adolescence, friendships, grief, and acceptance in society. So I'm very interested to read this one. It has a very good rating, and it's actually a translated book. So this book is actually Korean, and it's translated into English, and I always find that Asian translated books have such cool concepts. So yeah, that is Almond. Okay, this next one is kind of silly and not really a book I would usually pick out, but something about it drew me in. It's a holiday rom-com. It's queer. It's kind of like a enemies to lovers, rivalry, and usually I'm not big on that stuff, but I don't know, something about this just sounds like a really fun, fluffy read. There's a conflict between the Prince of Christmas and the Prince of St. Patrick's Day. There is some sort of thief of Christmas joy, and they're both trying to restore that, or they're conflicting about it. I'm not sure. I just thought this sounded really witty and kind of like a feel-good romance that I can splash in there between these gory horror books. I think I'll probably actually save this for Christmas, obviously, because it's full of Christmas spirit, and it would be kind of weird to just randomly read it in April or May. Next, Powerless. This is a very popular fantasy book that I've heard so many good things about, and I was intrigued. I also picked this up at a thrift store for $5. I recognized the title and the cover, and it was $5, and like, look how huge this book is, and it's hardcover. I have a little notebook here breaking down the plot of this book. It's set in the kingdom of Isla, where people are divided by elites who are gifted with powers and ordinaries who are not. Because they're ordinary, they're banished and shunned from the kingdom. This book is in the perspective of an ordinary girl, Payden, who is posing as a psychic elite. She saves one of the princes of Isla and is forced to compete in these deadly elite competition trials, where they show off their powers to the last man standing. So it sounds very interesting. I'm not a big fantasy person, but I've heard so many good things about this, and it does seem like it would be action-packed. So I'm definitely intrigued. But like, look how thick this is. Let's see how many pages this is. 500 pages. That is a pretty hefty fantasy. But when I feel like I'm in the fantasy reading mood, I will definitely embark on this journey. Next is the critically acclaimed graphic novel Saga. It's a fantasy sci-fi graphic novel about two star-crossed lovers and their baby. They're fighting to protect their family across this galaxy that is filled with war. This just sounds so interesting, and I've heard it compared to like a Star Wars kind of vibe. I am not knowledgeable at all on Star Wars. I've never watched it, but I'm very intrigued. This is also rated very highly on Goodreads. It has like a 4.2, which is crazy. So yeah, I'm really excited for this one. Also, the art is just beautiful. Like, I love graphic novels personally. Interesting. I don't want to spoil anything for myself accidentally, but this looks super cool. I love graphic novels for this reason. This series has over 10 volumes, which is crazy. So if I like it, I have a lot to go through, but also that is going to hurt my bank account for sure. All right, last but not least is Green Light by Matthew McConaughey. I am so excited for this memoir. I just think Matthew McConaughey is an amazing actor, and he seems like a pretty cool guy. I really like the idea of this memoir following a kind of atypical format. He states on the first page, which I already read, that it's not even really a memoir. It's more delving into his approach in life, his lifetime of diaries about his successes, failures, the joys, the sorrows of life, and the approach that he has developed to living that brings him satisfaction. He mixes his personal experiences and stories, the life lessons that he's learned, and his philosophical reflections into this book. What I've seen of him on YouTube, he just seems like he's filled with so much wisdom, and I feel that I could learn so much from this kind of book. So I'm really excited to read what he has to say and hopefully learn something. So I love these pictures. It does seem like it follows like a different format, which I just think is kind of refreshing. Not like just a straightforward day one to how I am now kind of book. I just think it's really interesting that he's compiled a lifetime of diary reflections and wisdom into a book to not try to sell you anything or say like this is how to be successful or whatever, just sharing how he finds satisfaction in life. That is the 7 books that I bought in the last week. My bank account is hurting. Why are books so expensive? Yeah, I hope you enjoyed. If you've read any of these, let me know what your thoughts were. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.